Hello from North Carolina. This is our 31st live session, and I can't believe that it's been almost 4 months since I've done the rundown. I have so much to get through today. For those of you who are joining, please let us know where you are joining from. That is our way of doing a little bit of a virtual mic check. And also, I believe if you are watching via LinkedIn, I'll be able to pull up some of the comments and answer them in somewhat of a real time, just because I know that there is, I believe, a 30-second delay here. But in any case, during my time away, I made some adjustments to our plan. So our plan is really to go live every 2 weeks on Tuesdays at noon to share fashion industry news from the previous few weeks. And while I'm going to be covering the same topics that I did, I'm going to have more of an emphasis on strategic planning because that's what I do. And to be perfectly honest, I may even move it to once a month, but I'm going to see how that goes. Again, if you are team replay or team live, let us know in the comments below where you are joining us from. That is our way of doing a bit of a virtual mic check. And also, I am going to drop in the comments below our newsletter. I'm also going to be doing those less frequently, probably on a quarterly basis. I have so many updates to share, So I want to be sure that I'm getting that information out to all the right people. So make sure you sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already. Allow me to reintroduce myself. And for those who know me, know that the Jay-Z song was playing in the back of my head as I was saying that. But I'm Rosalinda Cruz, founder and chief business development officer of the ASOR Collective, where we help underrepresented leaders in fashion with strategic planning and advising. Our mission is to support a more diverse and inclusive sustainable fashion industry by filling the leadership and ownership gaps in the apparel supply chain. Whew. On these lives, I try to reconcile my love of fashion and retail around with my values around sustainability, diversity, and inclusion. I advocate for supply chain change and try to raise buyer awareness at the same time. And already I'm getting a dry mouth, so I'm going to take a sip of my water here. I'm back. So really, what my goal is with these lives is to get out of the silo effect and work across sectors in the fashion industry to create solution-based conversation versus hair-splitting debate. And, one of the other things that I also want to mention is that I want to make sure that I'm giving voice to people of color, but more specifically women of color, and making space for emerging leaders, and really to share more things that I care about. I feel like there are so many things that one can talk about within the fashion industry, and then even within sustainable fashion itself. But what's happened in the last 4 months? Before I dive into that, I just want to reflect on something that I discussed in one of my last lives, which was in June, if you can believe that. But one of the things that I talked about is how so many people are at their breaking point, or were at their breaking point. And I had seen, like, back in June, like, a lot of posts where people were talking about it. I feel like there was some questions coming up around the impact of the Great Resignation and how some people were experiencing some blowback from that, be it on the individual side, but also on the business side. But really, one of my takeaways from that time in June was really just to make sure that you're giving yourself the same compassion that you give to others. You need to make sure that you are giving yourself space and grace to process whatever it is that you're experiencing, whether it is a major decision, a life-changing decision that you made, if you're reevaluating relationships, setting boundaries, but just make sure that you're taking care of yourself in big and small ways. I also know that my internet hasn't been that great today, so hopefully I'm not cutting out too much. If I am, and while I don't necessarily want to lose any of our live audience, I will say that one of the things that I love about StreamYard is that it actually balances out. So if you go back and watch the replay, you won't necessarily be experiencing those potential interruptions. So just wanted to put that out there. But so on that same sort of topic, I feel like I've only recently embraced the fact that I'm a lot, right? To some people. And some might even say that I'm too much. But one of the things that I did mention in that same episode is that I am not staying in spaces where I'm not fully embraced for all of me, right? My brain was built to do complex problem solving, and people can't always keep up, although I do have great training skills. But my heart was really built for leadership. And I feel like my 30 years in fashion and retail have given me a deep knowledge, which makes me an asset, right, to a lot of people. And some might even say that I'm a badass. I'm going to start practicing saying that a little bit louder. But so what happened? Another sip of water. I was dormant for about 4 months, and what happened is I actually had an accident at the end of June where I dislocated my knee, had multiple fractures, and tore just about everything imaginable. And I feel like I was abruptly forced, right, to take a break. No pun intended with that one. I was non-weight bearing for what I would say is a torturous amount of time. And I won't get specific, but let's just say months. And while I'm still not done healing, I am hopeful about the healing that I have done up until this point. And I know that, right, the balance between rest and activity, along with my physical therapy and time, is really going to determine what my full recovery is going to look like. So that's kind of what happened. And like I said during one of my previous lives, that I really needed to make sure that I was taking the time to heal, right, in multiple ways. So I'm going to get into it. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. I think that's what you're supposed to say here. But in our time together, I will try to cover one. I try to keep these lives to about 30 minutes. Sometimes I go over, but really the things that I'm going to be covering during our time together are announcements, planning PSAs, North Carolina news, industry news, product, services, workforce, and then the green carpet. And the green carpet is where I talk about brands, concepts, and processes and more that are being called to the proverbial carpet. So let's get into it. And I am considering that I haven't done this in so long. I'm pretty impressed with how I'm navigating all of the controls. I'm also having some lighting issues here. I think I'm going to have to get some better curtains. But in any case, November is National Family Caregiver Month and Alzheimer's Awareness Month. I mentioned that during my last live. Many of you guys know that I am the full-time caretaker of my dad, who has dementia. And I also have a cat that has dementia. Poor Pepper. She's sleeping right now, but she may make a little bit of an appearance. Her or dad. Dad, I call him my resident Zoom bomber. But in any case, I really want to make sure that I'm talking about this. I have been, the full-time caretaker of my dad for 3 years, and I have been doing all of my research and stuff like that. But last year, I actually read a pretty alarming report that talks about how family caregivers are a critical part of our healthcare system, and how our healthcare system would literally collapse without their support. And I'll just go into that a little bit more. But the reason that the healthcare system would collapse is because there are so many people who are caring for their loved ones at home, not placing them in, skilled care facilities, hospitals, but essentially if everybody who was receiving home care were to now go into our healthcare systems, it's not equipped to take care of that level of support, or the numbers, right? That volume of support. But in addition to that, caregivers are often isolated, working with limited resources, and suffer a higher rate of depression and suicide. And I can say that I've experienced all of that firsthand caring for my dad. And I've definitely been in some pretty dark places over the last 3 years that I've been caring for him. So you can also imagine the helplessness that I've felt, especially in these last 4 months when I had no mobility to limited mobility. But I also want to take a moment to thank the few people that supported me through this super, super challenging time, starting with my mom, my friends Steph, Tara, Janelle, and also the amazing founders of Seed to Shirt, Tamika and Deandra, who I absolutely, absolutely adored, and who have in many ways kind of showed me the light and helped me embrace this whole notion around heart-centered leadership, which is why you are going to be hearing me talk a lot more about heart-centered leadership, along with, and I touched on this in my last episode. Now I got to dry my eyes a bit. I should have kept my my tissues close, but I talked about this during the last live, but it's not business, it's personal. I'm going to get into that a little bit more. But since we are talking about updates, and speaking of Seed to Shirt, some of you may have missed this, but I recently accepted the role of COO with Seed to Shirt, and essentially I am responsible for the efficiency of the business, helping with market access for our partners and our farmers, and also I will be laying the groundwork for our historical preservation work. But I think that one of the things that is most important is that I will be working with the founders on building a strong culture that's rooted in equity and inclusivity. So a little bit more about Seed to Shirt, because one of the things that I also want to be doing is making sure that I'm uplifting the work of other people, and especially when they're doing such amazing, amazing work. But Seed to Shirt is a vertically integrated apparel production company that makes ethically made, eco-friendly blank t-shirts, and provide print fulfillment and promotional product products and services for brands and corporations. So if you have an event coming up and you need some t-shirts, definitely check out seed2shirt.com, and I will be sure to drop that in the comments. There we go. Just dropped it. So be sure to check them out. But their line their line is right now consists of t-shirts. We are going to be expanding that, but it is made from cotton that's provided from Africa, and soon African American cotton farmers. And 1% of the company's proceeds go to producers in our value chain in Africa. And we have a unique offering that includes ethical cotton sourcing and services. We also offer certified organic cotton. We are a broker, and we are a connector that provides access to raw organic cotton from our farmers to manufacturers in the textile industry. So we have a triple bottom line company that believes that our profits are for good, and 1% of every sale goes to our Seed to Shirt Farmer Enrichment Program, which supports over 350,000 farmers in West Africa and over 1,500 Black farmers here in the U.S. with education, resources, connections, and tools. So one of the things that I really, really like about Seed to Shirt is, they talk about how it's more than a shirt, it's a movement. And I always talk to people about how, not all t-shirts are equal. Sometimes, I hear friends and family balking at the price of a t-shirt. But when you think about, the spectrum of quality from an undershirt, a men's undershirt, to, a luxury apparel thing, sure, it can. The prices are crazy. It can run you from a few dollars to a few $100s, even $1,000, right? And what's built into that t-shirt is, or what is reflected in those prices is, the quality of the material, the quality of the construction, the amount that's being produced, because when you're producing in large quantities, oftentimes you can bring the price down. Also, how you treat your employees. So when you think about how Seed to Shirt is supporting its farmers, I don't think that you would question the price that's being paid for those t-shirts. But in any case, hopefully me talking about this wasn't a disservice, but I absolutely love them, and I cannot wait to see what the future looks like for us, because we're doing some pretty amazing work. But I guess the other thing that I want to talk about is what does this mean for the ASOR collective? So obviously time is precious, and, because of my commitment to Seed to Shirt, I am having to narrow my offerings, right? But my vision is still the same, right? Which is to support a more diverse and inclusive sustainable fashion industry and filling the leadership and ownership gaps. And I want to, I'm going to take another sip of water before I go into it, because I'm going to get onto a soapbox for a little bit. Okay, so I don't want to work hard. I just finished reading Brown Girls with Sharp Edges and Tender Hearts. And one of the things that she talks about is the notion that hard work gets you ahead. And she actually talks about her father, who is the hardest working person that she knows. And he still hasn't reaped the benefits of working hard, right? And I feel like that is the story of lots of people of color, people who, who are immigrants, and even, people who were born with, an endless list of of privileges. But I am totally anti-hustle and like pro smart work. And one of the things that I feel has happened is that like this hustle culture has taught us that like the path to success means like all work and no rest. And what I want to do is make sure that I am reinventing, right? Or what I'm doing now is really reinventing what work looks like for me and also for others. And it's also why I'm so passionate about strategic planning, because it saves you time. It allows you to concentrate your efforts and to work smarter, not harder, right? And I'm going to be offering some workshops, to make sure that I'm making my services accessible to more people. But I will talk about that more in a bit. But I'm going to push my soapbox to the side a little bit, but I want to make sure I'm keeping it handy. In any case, a couple of things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing another live. I talked about how I discussed it's not business, it's personal, which is my approach to business, but it's also the title of our new monthly live series, right? So it's not business, it's personal is going to focus on dispelling the limiting beliefs about professionalism, the path to success, and tapping into the leader within you, because I do believe that everybody has the capacity to lead. Some may choose not to, but they have the capacity to do that. And I also want to be intentional and make sure that I am making space for emerging leaders, be that, recent grads, be it from high school, college, people who are going through a career change, whether it's midlife, late life, what have you. Emerging leaders is who I want to make space for. And I want to make sure that I am uplifting, right, the work of others. So I'm going to be joined by special guests, and I've already reached out to a couple of people, and hopefully I will have some great guests and co-hosts, right? So having said that, I am going to still continue doing the rundown. I'm not going to be doing it on a weekly basis. Because it's a lot of work, and I don't have the capacity for that, and I want to be mindful of that. But I will also be joined by co-hosts, right? Because again, I'm really trying to make space and uplift the work of others. But so I will be doing that every 2 weeks, I believe, and like I said, I may be doing it on a monthly basis instead, depending on what my workload looks like, right? I'm not going to be so rigid about the schedule, but I will make sure that I send invites out with plenty of time for people to join. And you always have the replay. So, but I'm going to, also be focusing more on strategic planning and my ideal planning cadence. And I think that by doing that, I'm going to be able to help more people kind of get into the rhythm of my ideal planning cadence, which really will allow you to do your strategic planning in 25 hours, which some people think is absolutely impossible, but it's not. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I've seen it work. And more about that another time. So my 2022 offerings, I wanted to, another sip of water here. I'm going to be offering 3 workshops. So on December 2nd, I am going to be offering a 60-minute workshop, which is called The Real Business of Fashion. And this is The Real Business of Fashion, what you need to know when starting a fashion brand. And the reason that, and it's going to be like a high octane 60 minutes, but the reason that I haven't done that workshop in about 2 years, but the reason that I think that it's so important to offer this workshop on a regular basis basis is because oftentimes I have people reaching out to me who have lost a lot of money trying to get their brands started. And while that's not my jam, I can't help you, do all of that. I feel like I can help you with the strategic planning, but I can't like help with launches, and there's other people who are much better at doing that work, and experts in that sort of stuff, and I can point you in the right direction. But I really want this workshop, this 60-minute workshop, to act as like a first stop for people who are getting ready to start their fashion brand, right? They may have already started it, but I really want people to be able to go into it with eyes wide open, because I find that people start down that path, and then only after many times losing a lot of money do they realize that it is a lot harder than the internet makes it seem. I just saw like a thing, a post on Instagram that like was talking about, how to start, a business for free. And while it wasn't necessarily a fashion business, I was like, yeah, sure. Like you can, there's like free tools out there that'll help you, but starting a business, I don't think that there's nothing free about that. I feel like, yes, you can leverage resources, and many of them free resources, but it's going to cost you money, and it's going to cost you money before you start bringing in money. So, all right, I guess I got back on my soapbox. All right. So the next two workshops it's going to be a two-part workshop on 2023 strategic planning. And this is for fashion and textile leaders. It's going to be a two-part workshop. Each part is going to be 90 minutes. Part one is going to focus on Q1 and Q2 planning, and that is going to be offered November 18th. So I'm going to be sending out some information about that. This week, I believe I'm going to be sending that information out. And then part two is actually going to be on December 16th. So I will be sending out information also for that later this week. But part two is going to focus more on Q3 and Q4 planning. In both series, we're going to cover fundamentals. You are going to get some great tools to work with. Again, more about that. I am also offering an executive package, which includes part 1 and 2 of the workshop, along with customized 2023 planner and a 60-minute one-on-one with me, where I will review your 2023 strategic plan that was created in this workshop. So only 2 spots available for that. And again, more information later this week. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to say too, while we were talking about this. Planning cadence, I'm not going to go into that too much, but during my last live, I was actually talking about, right, this is when you should be, right, batch creating your Q3 content. That would have been June, and also reviewing your Q4 strategies. So the time to have done your planning was in June, but I'm going to go deeper into some of this stuff. Next week, I'm going to be doing kind of like a holiday special on holiday selling, and I will dive deeper into planning and some data around that. So that's that. We'll also talk about product drops. So let's go into the next slide. Oh, I forgot I did that. That's just kind of like an overview of the business, right? The umbrella of strategic planning and advising, serving the sustainable fashion and textile industry, and also with a focus on business development, leadership development, and operations. So North Carolina news. I'm going to try, that was my 10:30 timer, so I'm going to try and cruise through all of this. But next week, Monday and Tuesday, which I believe is the 14th and 15th, is the NC Idea Ecosystem Summit. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of people. I will be stationary for the most part, unless my doctor gives me clearance to move around a bit more. But come and find me and say hi. I know a bunch of people that will be there, but just love being able to get some FaceTime in. The other thing that I wanted to say is that Raleigh-Durham Startup Week, it is going to be taking place in April of 2023, and I was recruited to be on the planning committee, right, for that. So more news on that to come. Industry news. Another sip of water here. And my goodness, that sun pounding down on me has like triggered the sweat. So I am a little bit dewy. But in any case, so industry news, COP27, which is the climate conference, that is taking place in Egypt, started on November 6th and running through November 18th. Last week, also NRF, which is a National Retail Federation, released its holiday shopping report. And next week, I'm going to be doing that special rundown on holiday selling based on some of the information from this report. And one of the things that we're also going to be talking about in the special are the 5 types of global fashion consumers and what the opportunities are for sustainable fashion. There's some really, really interesting statistics already, and I don't want to share all of them, but holiday sales are defined as November and December sales, and they are predicting a 6 to 8% increase over 2021. So the projection is for holiday sales to roaring in at $942.6 billion up to $960.4 billion, which again is absolutely insane. CFDA awards were yesterday, I guess. Yeah, yesterday. There was a lot of blowback on, Kim Kardashian receiving the award, but and also Amazon, I believe, was honored. And then to add insult to injury, she wore a dress from Dolce & Gabbana, who has been on the cancel list for a while because of their racism and xenophobia in their marketing, as well as some of the things that, the founder has said. But in any case, also this week, there are tons of companies that are actually reporting their Q3 earnings, including the Real, Poshmark. And one of the things, I can't remember the statistic exactly, but I remember ThredUp released their annual report. And one of the things that they noted is that resale is actually slated to exceed fast fashion sales by 2025, which is somewhat of a good thing. Again, more on that next week in the holiday report. Now I'm going to switch to my next slide here. Product. Again, we'll be talking a little bit more about the product in the special next week. One of the things that I'm also going to be talking about too is, I can't help but go into it, but sort of the changes in shipping companies and consolidations that happened, which are also impacting availability of product, price of product, all of that stuff. And obviously having an impact on consumer behaviors as a result. What services? This isn't necessarily fashion, but it kind of falls into under that umbrella of sustainability. But you can now recycle your empty beauty containers at Walmart with TerraCycle. TerraCycle has been doing a lot of great things. I believe earlier this year they did a partnership with Parade, which allows you to recycle your underwear, or actually they're more upcycling them into other products, but that's also great. I think also Raleigh did test out doing curbside textile recycling, which was great. But the other thing that I found out is that Massachusetts actually made it illegal for you to dispose of textiles. So textiles in Massachusetts now need to be taken to a special recycling center. So I thought that was interesting. And I know that I have a bunch of friends and family joining from Massachusetts. So please share what your experiences has been like with that. I believe that has only recently gone into is being enforced. So workforce, not really much about workforce, but again, I just want to make sure that I am, focusing my efforts on emerging leaders, and mentorship, right? I mentioned before that hopefully I will be having some special guests and a co-host for these lives. I think that it would be much, much better, to have people join and be able to actually have a dialogue versus me just like firing off about some of these things. So what else? Dun, 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 dun. We are at the green carpet. So again, keeping this brief because I got a minute and 35 seconds before my snooze goes off again. But the green carpet is where I talk about brands, concepts, and processes that are being called to the proverbial carpet. So there are no shortage of ethical dilemmas, right? And there's a whole lot of siloed discussion, infighting, right, between whether it's farmers, manufacturers, vendors, academia, brands, journalists, and activists, and the gatekeepers, right? Because they are way too many of those. But I feel like, some of these, conversations can be a little contentious, but I, want to make sure that I'm also creating space, right, where people are open to dialogue, because I do know that there is a lot of finger wagging that happens. And while that is necessary in many ways, I also feel like solutions actually arrive through conversations, right? And really, when people, come, when people, come into a space where they know that there's going to be heavy debate, I feel like a lot of time people, come with their guards up and they're in defense mode versus being in problem solving mode. Stinkers. So I want to make sure that, that we're allowing space for that dialogue to take place. And, I know that I had talked about the work of Loretta Ross, who kind of introduced me to the term of calling people in versus calling them out. So I haven't been practicing that lately, but I am going to try and bring that back. So in any case, green carpet news. Yes. So I mentioned earlier that there are a lot of brands who are reporting their Q3 earnings. This week, one of those brands is Adidas, right? Who has been suspiciously yet understandably quiet since announcing their split from Ye, formerly known as Kanye West. But they also, anyways, Balenciaga also announced that they were going to be severing ties with Ye, but I don't know if a lot of people caught this, but Balenciaga and Adidas announced that they are now doing going to be working together and doing a collaboration, which I was just like, what, are you kidding me? In any case, I read about this, but BOF did, which is the Business of Fashion, did a really, really great article about this. If you want to learn more, go check it out. I haven't been keeping up with that whole saga, but one of the things that that was discussed is the fact that what are they going to be doing with all of this inventory, right? Because in footwear specifically, and even in fashion, right, like a lot of times there's a 24-month lead time, so there is a lot of inventory that's already been produced and some that was in the middle of production, right? So what is the blowback going to be to those factories and those manufacturers, right? What is the impact going to be on small businesses? I imagine there's going to be layoffs, if not closure. I feel like this is also some of what came up during the Pay Up campaign when a lot of brands canceled orders, and obviously the impact is really on the garment workers, right? Which for the most part are Black and brown people, women in particular. So I wish I had a guess so we could dig into that more, but we are also already out of time because I just talked so much about all the other updates that were happening in my life. So again, I'm going to make sure you sign up for our newsletter because I'm going to be sending some updates via the newsletter. And next week, we're going to be doing a special rundown. I'm going to call it the holiday special, where we dive into the numbers and sort of where you should be in your planning for 2023. And I may have some special guests too joining us. So trying to think if there's anything else. No, I think that is it. So do I have another slide after this? I love this slide, and this is actually something that I put on the first business plan that I did, right? Which is, at first they'll ask you why you're doing it, and later they'll ask you how you did it. And I can't tell you like how true that rings. But in any case, so that's it for this week. Thank you to those who are joining us live. Remember, our mission is to support a more diverse and inclusive sustainable fashion industry by filling the leadership and ownership gaps in the apparel supply chain. I will see you next Tuesday. I hope that you have an absolutely incredible week. And that's it. Bye.